Dr. Myra J. Hird, professor in the School of Environmental Studies at Queen's University, waste studies researcher and author of 11 books and over 70 articles and book chapters. Myra was elected to the Royal Society in 2014.
Hello, my name is Myra Hird, and I am a researcher and professor in the School of Environmental Studies at Queen's University in Canada. The topic of my presentation today is Canada's waste crisis and what we can do about it. I start with a land acknowledgement. I'm grateful to be able to listen and learn on traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee territory, and I accept my responsibility to act according to the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. One of my areas of research is who is held responsible and who takes responsibility for our waste crisis. And I call this the problem of amplification. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about in this short presentation. The problem of amplification occurs when the causes and/or the solutions to a particular problem are disproportionately framed such that certain people or interest groups are given either too much or too little responsibility for a problem and its solutions. And this is very much the case for waste in Canada. Who produces waste in Canada? Well, according to research across Canada, even by our federal government, overwhelmingly, most waste in Canada is produced by the extractive and manufacturing industries. More specifically, it is the oil, gas, metals, and minerals extractive industries, in other words, mining, followed by waste produced through the agricultural industries. The smallest amount of waste is produced by individuals, families, households. It's called municipal solid waste, and it accounts for only up to a maximum of about 3% of the waste that is produced in Canada. And yet, even though individuals, families, households are producing the least amount of waste and often less toxic forms of waste, the problem of amplification can be felt here because what is happening is that individuals and families are being burdened with a great responsibility for our waste crisis and being held responsible for resolving it, mainly through post-consumption behaviors such as recycling and to a less extent, reducing. The problem of amplification occurs in Canada because waste management and recycling has been privatized. And the waste management and recycling industries have designed a system that places responsibility onto individuals, households, families for waste production, and to largely try to resolve this problem through recycling. Why? Because holding individuals accountable and focusing on recycling, both of these things really increase industry profits. And it doesn't decrease consumption or confront production in any way at all. The problem of amplification has a very long history. Some of you may remember the advertisement that was famously known as the Crying Indian advertisement. This advertisement started in the 1950s when bottling companies such as the American Can Company were moving from glass bottles to plastic bottles. They wanted to move to plastic bottles because it was much cheaper and this would increase their profits. And they didn't want to have to take back the glass bottles, wash them, etc., and then reuse them again. They wanted to move to plastic, but they didn't want to take responsibility for all of this plastic waste that they would be creating. And so they created a series of advertisements around this idea of Keep America Beautiful. This became a big campaign in the United States. And we've seen similar campaigns in Canada and across in this television advertisement, we see this figure of known as Iron Eyes Cody, who was in fact an Italian actor and not in any way an Indigenous person, who is canoeing, is paddling in a canoe down some unknown river, and comes to shore just as a woman throws out some fast food packaging out of the window of her car, and it lands on Iron Eyes Cody's feet. And his response is that a single tear falls down his cheek. The byline of this advertisement was called "People Start Pollution, People Can Stop It." This is a perfect example of the problem of amplification that has simply grown such that today many Canadians feel that they are creating our waste problem and that they must resolve it through better recycling, through buying often quite expensive so-called green products, etc. So if we want to start to address Canada's waste crisis, then the first thing we need to do is to recognize this problem of amplification. And we need to exercise our rights and responsibilities as citizens rather than as consumers. So rather than fussing around what products we're going to buy or not buy and how green or not green they are, we need to also focus our efforts on expecting our various levels of government to force industry, the extractive and manufacturing and retail industries, to shoulder the burden of responsibility through extended producer responsibility and other regulations and policies and practices to take responsibility for the waste that they are creating, because after all, they are creating Canada's waste crisis. We also need to address waste as a human rights issue. And in Canada, this means addressing waste as a symptom of ongoing settler colonialism, insofar as we have dumped, these industries have dumped all kinds of waste on Indigenous lands, and we are holding Indigenous communities disproportionately responsible for this waste in their communities. Thank you very much for listening to this short presentation. If you are interested in this topic, you're very welcome to contact me through Queen's University. Thank you very much for your time.